evening, space cadets, ladies and gents, ladies and germs, whoever you are out there in YouTube land. Welcome to the strangeness again of conservative principles with Scott and Sophia. What's going on, girl? What you doing? What you doing over there?
Should I baby Yoda today? My
Baby
daughter
Yoda.
wanted, yeah, my daughter wanted me to wear this, so I told her I'll wear it for like 5 seconds.
There you go. Why not? Yeah,
Ah,
she
shit.
wanted to share something with mommy.
Happy belated Halloween, everyone.
Yes. Yes. How was your
But
Halloween, by the way?
it was great, actually. A little stressful because my daughter had me going all over the damn place. I think she went to 3 different places on 3 different days, and I'm like, okay, this is enough.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't do too much. I never really got into Halloween or too many holidays anyways. That's just me though.
Yeah, me neither. But I mean, I just let try to let her have her fun with
Oh
her
yeah.
little
Always.
outfit.
Heck
Yeah,
yeah, man. Yeah, hell yeah. She was cute too. Pictures you showing.
thanks,
She was such a sweetie.
little
Yeah.
ladybug.
Little ladybug. She was a little ladybug. Yeah, and my Halloween was uneventful, you know. I was on call working and stuff like that anyway, so really didn't do too much. So anyways,
Well, I
anywho,
got to make that money, man.
we wanted to change the day from Thursday to Sunday because we figured we're going to try to get more viewership. You know, people find it a little easier to tune in and watch what we're doing. So we're going to give it a shot here on Sunday. And again, if you like what we're doing, like and subscribe. We're trying to build the channel up and reach as many people as we can. And we're all about, compassion, conservative principles, not necessarily any particular party. But we are conservatives to some degree, to a larger degree than less. And so we're just kind of representing that. So, and to, we're in an election cycle too. And so it brings up a lot of topics, and we thought we'd, cover the two-party system that we're under. Can we do better? What do you think, Sophia? Is this the best we can do, or is this what we should do? Have a two-party political system?
Well, I kind of think that it's ridiculous and asinine to have a two-party system in a country that is extremely diverse, and it's left up to two parties, and we only have a choice of two parties. So
Mm,
that's pretty much wrapping it up in a nutshell. Because at the current moment, and I think it's been like that for a long time, you just have the right and the left going at it and struggling for, I guess, domination. One wants to dominate the other, but it's a constant shit show. It's like watching a fucking circus sideshow. And I
mm-hmm,
don't feel that um, the best interest of the people is actually being considered here when it comes to
mm-hmm,
the two-party system. It's more about which side wins.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's
So
that's
am I
mainly what
breaking
it
up
is.
today?
No, you're good. I can hear you. You're coming through really clear.
Okay. Because I hear some kind of something. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand. It's almost like it's a scam.
Mm-hmm.
We keep getting wrapped up into this shit, but it's not going anywhere. There's no real result, no anything. Like, come on, who you trying to play?
You know, one of the things I was thinking about, um, because I think that like when we talk about things that are really impactful to your life, like things that really affect you in the political arena, right? It's usually, your local stuff, like your local government, your city, your town, your community. Those local officials that represent you. Um, if there's only a two-party system, it seems like you've got these different, communities throughout America. You've got very deeply religious communities, really secular sort of communities. Um, you know, then we've got the identity, you can break it down through demographics and stuff like that. And each of these demographics are represented by, say, a religious leader or an a religious leader, or someone who's more libertarian leaning, or someone who's more strictly right wing conservative, right? There's so much that people, resonate with as individuals. So two parties can't really represent everybody. So
Exactly.
in these communities, it seems like it would be a good thing to have more than two parties, because you're in a community that's really far right. Then you're going to want representatives that are going to be that sort of candidate for you, at least in your local. Where I see the two-party system can be effective is in the large, the large thing. Because if we have so many different groups representing so many different extreme things, it seems like if one were to win, then it would be like representing a minority, a very
Yeah,
small
it's because
minority.
like if one side wins and the other one doesn't, then you have basically a divided country, and one side doesn't get anything that they wanted. And
Yeah.
it's like, what the fuck? That's not how that works, because it's supposed to be about the people, right?
Hmm.
And people getting along and having a society that we can all feel comfortable in. So if one side wins, the other side is always going to be pissed off, and that's pretty much like
Mm,
almost down the middle. So you have a divided country, and that's what we're seeing. I mean,
yeah.
all it does is divide the country. I mean, not the like. I don't see how that makes sense. That's all I can say.
Do you think it's gotten worse over time? Like, because we didn't always have that conversation. Like, no one really worried so much about it. But recently, it seems like everybody's talking about we need to get rid of the two-party system. Do you think it's just gotten worse over the years?
Well, I mean, I'm not from America, and I didn't grow
Mm,
up here, so I guess based on research, I would say yes, it's gotten worse because I guess the country is getting more and more away from the Constitution.
mm,
And with that being said, yeah, definitely, I would say it's gotten worse
mm-hmm. Wow.
because the Constitution is what protects us as people, and they have found ways to basically bypass the Constitution in many ways. And so once you do that, that's a big fucking problem.
Mm. Hey, is my audio and video coming out okay for you guys?
It is for me. Is
Okay, because it's
anybody
kind
even
of,
watching it?
I don't know, because it's kind of froze up on my end, so I'm gonna give it a little time to unfreeze or whatever it's gonna do. There we go. It's finally unfreezing. Trying to share this video because we're gonna actually go into it as soon as I can get control of my computer. Anyways, having a little
So
technical
crack today.
difficulty over here. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, it just seems like for, I'd say, the last 10 years, people have really been, tired of the two-party system. Like, it's been more divisive. Like, I remember when Obama was president, it seemed really divisive at that time, in America. And then when Trump got in, it was just even more divided. Like, it just really got divided because these are like two extremes. And like you said, when one party gets voted in, the other party gets voted out, and then half of America is
Pissed off
disgruntled.
and disgruntled. Yeah. And I mean, what kills me is all this emphasis on the president. The president, it's Trump's fault that the pandemic got out of control. And like, how do you put that on a president? You know,
Right.
I mean, the president really has very little power, to be honest. And that it's like that's just the person that you see on your TV, and that's the person you attack. But that's not really who's pulling the strings. And that's
Yeah, of
another thing
course.
that I want to point out, that people talk all this shit. Oh, Trump this and Trump that, and Obama this and Obama that. Like, them people ain't got no damn power.
Right.
Really.
Right.
If they did, we wouldn't be in the position we're in. Shit.
I mean, they have power in the sense of representing the world, like being that face, that face of the party and that face of the country and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, be in the face, but what about the handlers around them?
Yeah, who's really making the decision?
And
That's
it's
a
really,
whole other question. Yeah.
it's really Congress anyway.
Yeah, because they are the purse strings, man, and money talks. But yeah, let's get into this because it's a good question. I ran across this video. I haven't really had a chance to really sit down and watch it, so this is my first time watching it. Why so many Americans hate political parties? Now, this came, I think, CNBC ran this report.
Just two political parties have long dominated the American government.
The two-party system, at least on the surface, has been dominant in American politics since the Civil War. It makes good sense for young people to ask, is this the way it has to be? Can't we do better than this?
The 117th Congress had just two independent members in the Senate, who both caucus with the Democrats.
The only game in town are the two major parties.
A study in 2022 found that nearly 4 in 10 Americans wish for more political parties.
America is a diverse country of 330 million people. The idea that Americans would neatly fit into just two political parties is absolutely bonkers.
And we saw a huge uptick in support and interest in 2016 when Gary Johnson ran for president. Over the past, I'd say, couple of years, we've seen a lot of that support translate into grassroots support, where people are not just checking a box every 4 years, right? Like, they're actually wanting to get engaged and get involved at the local level.
When we get
the local level, that's a good point. It's no, that's a good point they're bringing up. No one can neatly fit into any of the two parties, if we're being real. Like, if people sit around in a room and just agree on everything, somebody's lying. You know what I mean?
Right. It's too diverse, too many different groups of people that have different needs. It's just that simple.
Right.
You can't fix things on a large scale like that with one or two ways.
Yeah. And especially when you think about the special interest groups and all the pressure that they get from the money and the donor support and things like that. That stuff affects their decision making and the way they, and these people have a brand. They're kind of like a corporation. The Democrats, the Republicans, they're huge business.
Yeah, and there should be more real people, realistic people in politics, people that can relate to the people, not some rich person that lives in a bubble.
Exactly.
I mean, how do you know what the fuck is good for me? How do you know? You don't even know what happens in our community. You know statistics, and that's it. But can you relate to it? I'll give you a good example. For those who don't know, I am a certified youth. I can't even say that shit. A YDC, a youth developmental coach. And growing up, I grew up in the system. You know what I mean? And we had these caseworkers that were trying to help us, live responsible lives and teach us how to go grocery shopping and how to manage our money and all that kind of shit, and trying to keep us on the right path. I lived in this like youth living facility type thing. And, most of those caseworkers really couldn't help a lot of us because they went to school and they learned out of books, and, they had to smell weed so they can know what it smells like to catch us doing it or whatever. But they couldn't really relate to the lifestyle or to the problems and issues that people have. You know what I mean? So a lot of the youngsters just didn't listen to them until this one coach who been there himself, who's been through that type of shit, he was able to relate to those teenagers. And he actually got to me when I was real young because he was able to relate. And that's how I feel about the government too. Most of those people in government, they can't relate to the average person.
And I don't think they're going to, like, you know, even if they came from the same place that most Americans come from in their life. If they're still individuals, they still have now pressure from special interest groups and so much politics of way greater than them. Like you said, they're just the face of the party. You know, they're the face of the government, but they're not necessarily the ones who, you know, make all the decisions like some kind of dictator or something like that. But yeah, I feel what you're saying though. I mean, it's obvious, you know, that, you know, you're not going to neatly fit into a box. No one is, you know. It's not how
Right.
this stuff works. But let's keep on with this video.
Put into two teams competing for our resources, we engage in high levels of demonization. When there's more sides and more possible coalitions, we can govern ourselves much more successfully.
But that's not as easy as it sounds.
There's structural obstacles as far as building up their campaign finance apparatus, getting on the ballot, getting included in debates.
There's a role for third parties in our system, but generally speaking, if you have too many, you can end up with very incoherent, hard to control politics. And in that case, voters get very upset because then they feel like really nobody's listening to them.
So should the US consider moving on from a two-party system? And what kind of changes would it bring? For the majority of elections, the United States relies on what's called a single-member district plurality system, where just one winner with a majority of voters wins the election. Experts say this winner-takes-all approach to elections is the main reason why two parties dominate in America.
The reason that we have just two parties is not because Americans want only two parties. It's because we have an electoral system that punishes and marginalizes third parties.
But if you only allow for one winner, essentially these gravitational forces start to emerge. And those
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
It was a little choppy on my end.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But
But what were
basically,
you saying?
yeah, just talking about you know, at the way that elections are run, you know, you have these debates and basically, you know, two people are going to ultimately be the opponents, you know. So it always sort of, whoever continues to win and have those sort of momentum seems to get the most shine over time. You know what I mean? So that's why we always stick with these two parties. It's always either or, is what he's saying. It's kind of like gravity. It just kind of naturally pulls in that direction.
Right. The thing is, like, for example, you had Pelosi and Trump, right? Was
Mhm.
it? No, not Pelosi. What's the other chick
Clinton,
who
Hillary.
ran against Trump?
Yeah,
Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had Hillary and you had Trump. So I'm like, at that point, you're trying to vote for the lesser evil.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And then Trump turned out not to even be that bad, you know. But what do you do? What do you do when you only have two choices? That's the thing. That's unrealistic. It's actually intellectually dishonest, I would say, because like I said, how do you choose between Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah. Exactly. That's the illusion of choice.
Speaking of Trump, have you heard of Trump basically insulting your governor, Ron DeSantis?
Yeah, I heard that today.
How productive is that shit?
Yeah, like calling him, making a little name for him or whatever. What saint? What do you call him? Sanctimonious.
Sanctimonious.
Trump's stupid, man.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Sanctimonious.
Just some more of the clown show.
Yeah, man. That's what happens. That's what we devolved into.
Forces dictate that because there's only one winner, a rational person is going to pick between two choices. And elites who fund those candidates are not going to spend money on a long shot.
But more Americans are expressing frustrations with the two main parties. In 2022, 61% of US adults found the Republican Party unfavorable, while 57% shared the same sentiment toward the Democratic Party. About a quarter of Americans today say they have an unfavorable view of both major parties, a considerable jump from just 6% in 1994.
A lot of people would suggest that both parties aren't quite sure where they want to go and what they want to do next.
Many Republicans are troubled by the course that the Republican Party has taken as Donald Trump has come to dominate the Republican Party with his distinctive brand of populism and election denialism. On the other hand, many Americans are discontented with the turn to the left of the Democratic Party, particularly on cultural issues.
Voters in both parties are also growing more hostile towards one another. 62% of Republicans and 54% of Democrats have highly negative views of the opposing party, compared to just 21% and 17% in 1994.
In order for democracy to continue, political parties need to be able to lose elections. But if we are in a situation in which one party believes that the other party winning the election would be so disastrous to the country that maybe we should intervene to prevent the other party from winning, then you don't really have a democracy anymore.
Hell no.
56% of Americans today believe that the current parties do such
Good
a
point.
poor job.
Man. And that's what I'm saying. It seems like it's gotten worse over the years. Like I remember it used to not always be
Yep.
this hostile, but now
So the question is, so since we can see that this is the case, that more and more Americans are basically no longer supporting the two-party system because they have pretty much equal amounts of discontent towards each party. Who listens to the people? What happens then? Do we just keep running to the voting polls? This whole vote, you need to vote. If you want change, you vote. Like that's because the reason you don't get what you want in your country because you don't vote. But what do you vote for when you only got two choices? And you're discontent with both choices?
There's no fair representation.
Exactly. So where do you go from there?
And it seems like the animosity people have against the other party seems to indicate that they are very entrenched in the whole party. Like the only people that aren't mad about only having two parties are these people in these parties that are so opposed to the other party. Like they're
Right.
the ones that are dead in they've like really committed their whole life and identity towards being a Republican or being a Democrat. It's
Yep.
like they're very tribalistic now into
Yeah.
that shit. You know what I mean?
And then trying to cancel each other out. That's the result.
Yeah,
Because you
yeah.
got one side calling the other side terrorists, one side calling the other side Nazis.
You
And
see videos, all those videos, people fighting over it physically,
and don't get me wrong, man, I think the Republicans have better policies than the left, than the Democrats. But my thing is they're obviously in cahoots with one another because I don't see the Republicans doing much about shit. And the Congress is mostly fucking Democratic. So I don't know. It just seems off because it just seems like they're all just under one.
I mean, the thing is that at first, it is healthy to have that tension, to have that they're both trying to check each other. That's kind of healthy in a way because they're going to make sure they don't go too far, and these guys are going to make sure they don't go too far. They're going to constantly be fighting and checking each other over every little thing they do wrong.
Yeah,
So
but it
that's
seems like
good.
it seems like the Republican Party on that in that aspect has been more lenient, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe a little too lenient, to be honest.
Like in what way? What are you thinking?
Because like all this tolerance, look where it's gotten us. All this
Mm.
fucking tolerance has gotten us to, oh, if you consider yourself a woman, you're being a bigot because that's not non-exclusive to transgender women, or
Mhm.
you know, all that type of stuff. You can't,
Oh,
you can't.
with the social justice stuff.
Yeah, the social justice has gotten out of hand, and that comes from tolerance, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Certain things you start to tolerate a little bit of it, and it just gets worse. Kind of like the saying, I don't know if that's an American saying, but we say that in Germany. When you give somebody the pinky, they take your whole hand.
Mhm.
Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, there's a saying like that in this in America. It's called give somebody an inch, they'll take a yard. You know, give them a yard, they'll take a mile. You know, there's always going to take more. You just
Right,
give
that's
them
the
a little
same.
bit.
And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, and I see that that has happened for sure, for sure. A lot of it, a lot of that tolerance has gotten us like, hey, I don't care about if you're gay, straight, bisexual, or transgender,
Hmm.
but when you're changing policies that basically step on the toes of other people or restrict other people from being themselves,
Hmm.
that's a problem. You know what I mean? That's not tolerance anymore. That's just like they're not as tolerant as they want us to be, basically.
Hmm. Oh yeah. There's a lot of um what do they call these people? Virtue signalers, and so they like to take people to court and cancel people and throw them under the bus just for language and just for really frivolous opinions, things like that. They're willing to you know take people to court about this stuff.
Yep.
It's
Hold on. I
ridiculous.
don't know what the hell this is. Some kind of alert. Sorry. Let me turn that off. It's another child abduction.
Oh Lord.
Girl, put that back. I know that. It's on my phone right here.
Amber alert.
Yeah, unfortunately, we get a whole lot of those. This victim is 13 years old,
Yeah.
and they're looking for a U-Haul truck. San
Damn.
Antonio, in case anybody wants to look out for that.
Keep your eyes open in those areas. Anyways, we'll get back to this video.
That a third major party is needed. The sentiment is especially prevalent among younger adults and independents.
We have been seeing a lot more support from young adults and people who are more politically homeless, as we call them, people who are independent.
This has not been a great period for the two-party system. We've had real setbacks overseas, we've had real setbacks at home. So, from that standpoint, it makes good sense for young people to ask, is this the way it has to be? Can't we do better than this?
In response, certain minor parties have been providing an alternative to the bipartisan dysfunction in America.
Well, if you're sick of Democrats and Republicans, there's another option coming your way. A new third political party in America called Forward. The co-chairs, one Republican, one Democrat.
This is the bringing together of left, right, and middle. It actually celebrates plural.
People ask me, what are you going to do for the election? Now, the question is, what are you going to do?
Pluralism.
Among them, the Libertarian Party is currently the third largest political party in America, with more than 310 elected officials as of November 2022.
My name is Angela McArdle, and I am the national chair of the Libertarian Party. We are really all about personal and economic freedom. We want peaceful people to be able to do whatever they need to do to get by in life, to be happy, to be healthy, to be prosperous, and to thrive. We've got over 17,000 members.
Just a third of Americans today believe that the two existing parties do an adequate job of representing the American people, compared to more than half back in 2003.
A really fundamental part of a democracy is that people feel like they have a meaningful choice. And that's not so much the case if you feel like in a two-party system that's really polarized, that there's only one option you would ever vote for.
I don't think that two parties that are essentially captured by what a lot of people call the deep state or political establishment can ever represent everyone's interests, because I think they represent their own interests. And to a certain extent, I don't even blame them. They're incentivized to do that, to keep their jobs, to stay in power, and to grow their monolith.
If we had more parties, it would be less of a kind of zero-sum competition between the Republicans and the Democrats. You would have less of an incentive if, as one party or another, to kind of tear down the other party, if that didn't automatically translate to a gain for your.
Yeah, I agree. She basically said what we already said, but also I think it also breeds corruption, because like she said, when you only got two parties, you know, the other party is gonna do whatever it takes to run smear campaigns and every fucking thing else. And that's where the propaganda comes in at, and the brainwashing of the people and the biased media. It's just, you know, it just breeds corruption all around. You know what I mean?
Yep. Because it's all about winning and, you know, their party, you know, it's like sports.
Trump.
Yep.
Yeah, like Trump. Now he's dissing fucking Ron DeSantis, and DeSantis is a strong, you know, well-liked conservative leader. So what's the point of that? That's like, you know, you're willing to do anything to win. Is that it?
Yep. That's what it is. And he's always been like that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he's very competitive. He's a businessman, and that's not in and of itself bad, but I mean, that right there to me was just a low blow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Side.
Incorporating more voices could not only help with polarization, but participation as well. Voter turnout in the US has long been below average compared to other developed countries.
A multi-party system with viable third parties would bring people back into the process, back into the discussion, and make it a lot harder to say, well, government sucks, I'm not going to participate. And now we're having a conversation between only half of the country, which is really dangerous.
A big obstacle for minor parties is funding. President Joe Biden's 2020 presidential campaign raised a little over $1 billion, while President Donald Trump raised more than $700 million. In comparison, Libertarian presidential candidate Joe Jorgensen was only able to raise close to $3 million in the same year.
The two established parties have long-standing bases, not only of voters, but also of funders.
The discrepancy is really large, and I think it's because people find that there's a lot at stake. And so people are incentivized to hold on to positions of power and to pump and dump as much money as they possibly can into major elections.
Man, that's the thing. With all that money, it's got to be corrupt, man. The whole thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, I appreciate this libertarian viewpoint. And I mean, I have conservative viewpoints as well, but I'm more on the libertarian side. And I think everybody knows that by now. I guess some of my views are strictly conservative, but you know how that goes with politics, man.
Yeah. We're all individuals, you know.
Right. So, how do you feel about all this?
Man, it's everything they're saying is absolutely correct. I mean, I've always been mainly a libertarian myself for that very reason. But it seems like because of the big money that's behind these political parties, it seems like a group like libertarians wouldn't have a chance. Because they're not mainstream, you know, they're very they're kind of different than everybody else. So mainly people are going to know about Democrats and Republicans and are going to fall on either one of those sides because of the commercials, the advertising, all that shit.
The social engineering. But see, that's why we have to get channels like these out there because, you know, I started off with, I guess I was always kind of a libertarian, but I kind of crossed over to conservatism a little more here and there because of the hypocrisy of the left and the Democratic Party. And hold up, Chris, we doing the show. Sorry. Okay. Okay, he busy anyway. Hey, welcome to the hood, man. That's how we do it right.
We're doing a show. Shut the fuck up.
Anyway,
So
shit, I done lost my train of thought. But what was I saying? Okay. Damn it.
no, you were fed up with the liberals, with the Democrats, and so you pretty much started gravitating towards the Republicans, I think you were going to say.
Well, I mean, yeah, not Republican, but conservative, because I don't think you have to be necessarily like a far right Republican to be conservative, but I guess
Right.
most of them are. Like, I don't really subscribe to people like Candace Owens, even though she has good talking points, but that's a whole nother subject. I totally lost my train of thought, so let me stop faking.
Okay. trying to act like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't even know what the hell I'm saying now because I done totally forgot. But I wanted to say something about the libertarian side of it. But yeah, though, you're right. All we know is conservative and Democrat, and that's everybody's focused on that. I'm saying there's another way, though. You know, there's more ways than those two, and I guess that's what libertarians are saying too.
That's their
So,
whole one of their platforms. So, you know, libertarians have been around long time, and they've never really gained a lot of ground. I mean, they've really grew. I mean, they are the third largest party behind the Democrats and Republicans. So they've come a long way. But I don't know why people won't vote for a libertarian. I don't understand why.
well, they just explained it. It's corrupt. It's all corrupt. Like Ice Cube said, everything's corrupt. It's corruption. You know, you can't even, it's corruption. That's all I got to say. Look at the media. Look at this shit with Kanye. I done stopped watching that shit because it's a bunch of fucking propaganda. And at the end of the day, they're using this dude too, you know, and they feeding his ego, playing right into his ego and shit. So I'm like, it's just all a shit show, and people have to put their fucking phones down for a minute and actually
Dude,
think about.
man, see, the thing is, we grew up in a different era. Like for me, the news for me was 30 minutes long.
Right.
When you come home from work or school, you turn on the news, it's 30 minutes, and that's it. That tells you everything you need to know. Nowadays, it's an influx of information overload. It's just all this news and drama, and all of it really doesn't matter because they're just making stuff up in order to fulfill that cycle, you know. And
Well, I
we
think
are just clickbaiting. We're good clickbait people, you know. We love to
yeah,
feed into that kind of garbage, you know.
but I think that people have to be more politically savvy. And what I'm saying with that is, because you hear a lot of people say, especially in the hood, oh, I don't give a shit. It's all corrupt anyway. Or, you know, who cares or whatever. Like nobody really educates themselves about politics and how it really works. And yeah,
Right.
okay, we can acknowledge that it's corrupt, but that doesn't mean do nothing, you know? That doesn't mean, because like
Yeah,
they said, it causes a lot of people to basically turn their backs on the whole system. And then,
it gets worse.
like he said, now we're only having a conversation with half of America. And that's a problem. That's dangerous because it's like handing over power at this point because you're so repulsed with it that you don't even want to be asked with it. So now you just leave it up to them. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And that's dangerous. So I know that's what I wanted to say. I get what he's saying. That's very dangerous because now you just kind of took your hands off of it, and like you have nothing to do with it, like it doesn't affect you and your community, and you're just handing over power now, to them.
And we've got a caller that's calling in to the show, wants to join us. Is Alejandro.
Oh Lord. Hey,
Hey,
Alejandro.
Mr. Alejandro, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I want to apologize because I am sick today,
Okay.
so I'm not on my A game. But when you guys said anyone satisfied with the two-party system words, I'm like, okay, well, I'll call in and I'll have a minority opinion for you.
Oh, cool. What do you
Yeah.
think, Alejandro?
Well, the issue right now is the two parties are very much solidified along ideological grounds. You're either pro-choice or you're pro-life. You're either open borders or closed borders. You're either nationalist or international. And the parties are very much solidified along those, and they're very integrated. So for a third party to exist, you'd have to find something or a route that is a mix of the two or isn't, and that's just an uphill battle. I mean, Republican positions tend to be very well thought out. They're winning positions, close the borders. Very simple. That's hard to argue with. Pro-life, okay? That's another good one. Let's see. We are for strong defense, okay? Now, the libertarians, the ones I've talked to and when I've dealt with them, where they tend to melt is whether they want to do good internationally. And that's going to be coming up probably in another generation to 2 generations. And the two parties are going to shift. And the difference is going to be, are we swimming in the same pond? Right now, actual liberals, okay, so these are people, I would say like Bill Maher or Russell Brand, are very much into the psychology of we swim in different ponds. If someone wants to take their child to drag queen story hour, that's great. That's on them. If someone wants to self-identify as the opposite gender, great, good for them. That's a very libertarian position. Now, the Republican position is that we are swimming in the same pond, and that's really, at this point, the difference between the right and the far right. The far right, if you can call it that, is the ones who think, yeah, we're swimming in the same water. Personally, I don't mind if you do whatever you want on your own free time, but I have to be cognizant that it's impacting society as a whole. If you are going to, I don't know, do something destructive, yeah, your kids are not, if you're going to be an alcoholic, let's just pick on alcoholics because they're safe to pick on. All right, if we're going to pick on alcoholics, like, if someone wants to go home every day and drink themselves to sleep, on a philosophical level, why should anyone have a problem with that? They're not really hurting anyone. Well, they're not going to be as good parents as they could be. They're not going to live as good, productive lives as they otherwise could be. So do we as a society have an obligation to curtail that in any way? And of course, this is a church's responsibility. And the Republican position is the far right. What's going to be the Republican position is like, no, if you're going to go home, I don't want you to go home and drink every night. I don't want you to go home and do drugs until you're non-functional. I want you to be, part of a stable relationship. I want you to be a good parent. I want you to drive safely, because these things affect me ultimately and indirectly.
Right.
So
can I say?
Yeah, sure.
So, but isn't the Republicans, or at least the far right, aren't they the ones who say, you have a choice and free will, and it's on you that you make those kind of choices? Because I thought that was very libertarian, actually, to say, hey, what can we do to maybe help people who have those type of issues? Because like you said, I agree. these things affect our society as a whole because we're swimming in the same water, like you said. Also, would let's say abortion. Personally, I'm pro-life, right? Pro-life. But at the same time, I also think that if another human being thinks that it's okay to do that, that's between them and their own karma or their own God or whatever they believe in, right? Because I don't want to go so far as to say, hey, I'm not going to allow you to do this and try to stop them or create some kind of law, because at the end of the day, like if we didn't have these laws, people have been doing abortions on themselves for thousands of years. You know what I mean? So they're going to do it anyway. So my thing is, do I have the right to tell somebody else not to do it, even if I don't agree with it? You know what I mean? So I think that would also be kind of libertarian, right? If I say, I don't agree with it, but hey, if that's what you want to do,
Well,
that's on you.
There's an old answer to that. There's an old answer to that. If someone wanted to keep slaves, you know, and they're not bothering you, is that okay? You know, if someone says, you know,
that's different.
No,
that's different. That is very different, because
but slaves are individuals. Slave,
so is a baby.
They're individual people, but it depends, because a baby is a baby and a sperm cell is a sperm cell. And I'm not saying that it has less value to me, but it may have less value to someone else, but it's not a baby. It's not a person.
Now, again, you're talking about what's going to happen after this generation of politics goes away. Now, first of all, let me get that out of the way. The Democrats have managed to pick every bad failing position I can think of. It's absolutely remarkable. I'm not the only person that's noticed it, but the Democrat Party is frighteningly bad. It was a man, I can't remember his speech right now, but it's like, if they were just dumb, they would be right occasionally. If they were run by morons, idiots, whatever, they would be right once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But every position they take isn't just bad, it's 180 degrees from right. So ultimately they are going to go away. Now, what follows is the questions you're asking. Okay, the questions you're asking, again, am I swimming in the same water? Now, when you talk about being, you know, I'm against abortion, but if someone else wants to do it, that's fine. That's we're swimming in different ponds mindset. You know, whereas the Republicans, no, we're swimming in, you know, we have rules, and the rules are we protect innocent life. Okay, if a child is being beaten, you know, I'm not going to be libertarian about that. Okay, it's the same way you extrapolate that to a fetus who's completely innocent, completely, you know, without blemish, and you're just going to allow it to be murdered.
Right, I understand. I understand what you're saying, but that's more from a religious viewpoint. And all people aren't religious. You know, some people might argue scientifically it's not a human being yet. It's just it's not a baby. So
right. They made the same arguments about black people.
With the pill after.
Yeah, it's dependent on how you're valuing things. It's like we said before when we were talking to Leah that time. Some people value seeds. Some people value trees, you know, but you can't have trees without seeds. So if you get rid of the seed,
right, but you're
getting rid of the tree, and you're not really respecting life. That's one person's value. Then there's another person's value that says, who cares about seeds? The only thing that matters.
But see, that's not what I'm talking.
I know that's not what you're saying. I'm just saying that I'm telling Alejandro that seems like
I'm trying to say.
Go ahead.
I'm simply saying that if a woman wants to have an abortion and she can't go to a clinic and get it done, she can use a coat hanger and get it done, or she can go in an alley and get it done. And even before we had that's not what I'm saying. Just hold on. What I'm saying is that I personally don't believe in abortion. I think it's unethical is the word I'm going to use. But I am a realist, and I know I can't control everything or everybody. You see what I'm saying? So I think control can only go so far. but not to the extent where I can control somebody else's decisions to that extent. You know what I'm saying?
You want to make
That's
it
all I'm
easier for
saying.
people to commit crimes. You want to make it easier
I'm
for
sorry?
women to, you want to make it easier for women who murder their children?
So that's, I don't see it as murder. I think that's unethical, but not murder.
Well, the
It's
argument is that you
unethical
want to
because
make
I
things
believe
that, you know, if girls are not allowed to do it, they're just going to do it anyway, and they're going to make a bigger mess. And I'm okay with them making a bigger mess. You know, if they're
so
gonna,
do you think that people should be prosecuted and persecuted for wanting an abortion? You think that's
for
how far it
wanting
should
one,
go?
wanting one,
Or for
you can
getting
want
one?
whatever you want. That's fine.
You know what I'm
Freedom.
saying? You know what I'm saying, Alejandro?
You know what?
You
You
know
know,
what I'm saying?
okay. If a doctor prescribes drugs that he shouldn't, that's wrong. You know, if someone walks into a doctor's office and says, you know what, I have body dysmorphia, can you cut off my right arm?
Well, the only difference is that, Alejandro, you're looking at the fetus as a full-grown human. Like, it's not you're not saying that because it's a fetus that it has less value than a grown human being. So that would be murder, you know, and there's no real way around it. You know, it's like you're either murdering someone or you're not.
Exactly.
And so
Right.
what Alejandro is saying is, if we're going to be logical and call it murder, which it is, then it's fucking murder. So,
But see,
it's case closed. I mean,
I
it's,
just
what,
think,
what do,
I just think that's too black and white, because life is just not black and white like that. Because
right.
I mean, let's say a 13-year-old girl gets pregnant, whether, I mean, either way, it's rape, because no man is supposed to have sex with a 13-year-old. But you know, that fetus could kill the 13-year-old because her body's not even developed enough to safely have a baby or carry a baby. And it happens, you know.
Sophie, as you know, these are arguments that have people have been beaten to death. The reality is, I believe, was it over 90% or over 95% of abortions are elective? I mean, you've got this tiny
I agree.
tiny minority of rape, incest, threat to the life of the mother, etc., which is a non-zero number, but they're using that to justify abortion on demand. And that's
well,
the thing is,
I'm not on that train though. Like
I live in California, okay, and New York and California are very clear. You know, if it's still a baby, it's okay. You know, until you cut the cord, it's okay.
No, I don't agree with that at all. That's
okay.
disgusting.
You know, the thing. So you know, once again, you know, even just 2-3 years ago, up to 2019, you know, I was like, oh, you know, the baby is not viable outside the mom, and then the New York passes the law. It says, yeah, anytime, anywhere, any reason or no reason at all.
Yeah.
You know, let's be real with the facts. Okay, the facts are the Democrat laws, the Democrat policy is, you know, if mom wants an abortion, that's fine. Bringing up this, you know, oh, she was raped, incest, 13 years old. That's okay, and no one's arguing those. You know, we have to deal with. So the Democrats, once again, they have abortion on demand. That's wrong. That's murder.
Right, but
you know, every sane Republican is going to make exceptions for these infinitesimally, you know, weird cases, these black swans.
Yeah, but I don't think Sophia is really arguing that point.
That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that life is not black and white. You know, there are some in-betweens and gray areas, and I definitely don't subscribe to Democrat. You know, I don't subscribe to that at all. Like I said, personally, I'm a spiritual person, and I think that abortion is unethical. And the only thing I would argue is that, which I believe is kind of libertarian in viewpoint, is that we should look at the root causes that lead to, for example, teenage pregnancy. So we need more education about, you know, pregnancy in certain communities. We need to focus on, which is a very conservative view, on nuclear family structures. You know,
and all that is cultural stuff. Like the culture handles that fine.
because
Like,
r-
because the
right. So
government's out of it. Because when you take the government's hands off of culture, then culture can do what culture does, which is to implement, its values into that
I just
society.
don't think that. I just don't think being a realist as well. I just don't think that by prosecuting people who get
Who are you,
abortion,
who are you
it's
trying
going
to
to.
save?
Who
Who are
am
you
I
trying
trying
to
to
save,
say?
Sophia?
What do
Who
you
are you trying
mean?
to save? I mean, you're arguing these, like, okay, so what if I wear my seatbelt, and because I didn't wear my seatbelt, I was actually tossed free during the accident, and that's why I'm alive. Yeah, you've got these statistical anomalies, and that's what the court system is for. You can go in front of a judge and say, yeah, XYZ, I need to make an exception. That's what the system is. But we still pass laws that say, yeah, you got to wear your seatbelt. Yes, you have to drive on the right side of the road. Is there an occasion where I have to drive on the wrong side of the road? I imagine there is.
Right? But
Okay, but that's not the subject of conversation. Okay, we're not going to have a whole conversation in legislature going, yeah, we need to write in the law. Yeah, so under if it's lightning and thunder and a flash flood at the same time, no, we're not. Okay, that's the time. Now to get back to the issue of the third parties, a third party would have to fill a niche, and I don't see one. I don't see any particular combination of views that is internally consistent and not represented by one of the two parties. You're either for open borders or you're not. And the thing is, you
Yeah.
can't even have an honest conversation about this. I've had a number of conversations with people on the left. Oh, we're not for open borders. I mean, you can't even start with facts with these people.
Wow.
When did Biden say it's for open borders? It's
Yeah.
like, what?
Amazing.
know?
Amazing. Well, let's
well,
hear
I'm
what the rest of the
still, well,
video.
I'm still learning, and I'm not as politically savvy, and I'm not formally educated, even though I went to college, but I didn't finish. So anyway,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I just want to answer Alejandro real quick.
Okay.
And I'm a statistic, right? So, but anyway, I'm just saying that abortion should be between a woman and her doctor, and if a doctor feels that it's necessary to conduct an abortion based on certain things, then that should be between the doctor and the woman. Because I mean, she could have complications or whatever. That's for the doctor to decide. So I feel as long as
Okay,
a
then
doctor,
you're pro-choice. Just come out and tell me you're pro-choice.
that's not
Why play?
pro-choice.
Yeah, you are. That is pro-choice.
No, that
You are-
means
you are-
that.
Yeah,
No, that
that's
means
pro-choice.
No, that means I'm simply saying that there are instances where it may be necessary, like you said.
Yeah, you're going to leave it to people to decide if and when they want to buy a slave. I get it. Okay, that's pro-slavery.
That's not what I'm saying.
That is.
You're twisting what I'm saying. But hey, if that's how you want to take it, that's not what I'm saying.
Let's watch the rest of the video, man, and get through that part, and then we can get back on track with the political parties.
Enough money to get your presence well known, to get your candidate or candidates well known, then you won't have the impact you want, even if in principle you have a strong case to make and strong candidates to present.
But given the current political climate, some experts are hopeful that more minor parties could rise to prominence.
The discontent with the two-party system is most likely to express itself when there is discontent with the presidential nominees of the two major political parties.
I think it's a clear solution to many of the problems that we complain about in our democracy and many of the problems that are really threatening the foundations of our democracy. And it makes so much sense that it's hard for me to see how it won't eventually become the new way in which we do politics in this country.
But not everyone shares the same optimism.
The likelihood of a third party appearing for a sustained period of time is probably fairly small.
There's structural obstacles as far as building up their campaign finance apparatus, getting on the ballot, getting included in debates.
The two parties, having become so dominant as a mechanical result of these rules, have designed a political system that supports two parties. So there's institutional lock-in taking place as well.
New York, for example, raised the signature gathering requirements for third parties to an obscene, absurd amount. You've got to collect like 45,000 signatures that all have to be perfectly verified within 6 weeks. Our gubernatorial candidate, Larry Sharp, really worked so hard, and he turned in what we believe are the right amount of signatures, and the state still threw it out.
The New York State Board of Elections told CNBC that Mr. Sharp's campaign submitted a petition that stated on its face that it did not contain the required number of signatures. They also added that the number of signatures required has been revisited and adjusted after years of not being evaluated. The two-party system has some advantages of its own.
One of the big advantages of having a two-party system, right, is that it's almost always the case that people are being represented in some way.
When you have two parties in our system, it is hard to move things forward. Now, on one hand, you can say, well, Washington's not getting anything done, and that's fair. On the other hand, you can say, well, half of Americans don't want to see this get done. So policy cannot be rammed through. Whereas in many other systems, particularly parliamentary systems in Europe, if three parties get together, they can run the table and transform a country in 2 years. That can be really good if they make good decisions. That can be really bad if they upset 40% of the population.
Having just two parties to choose from could also help prevent more extreme political polarization.
The two parties have been very broad. They've incorporated really diverse constituencies across all sorts of dimensions, urban and rural, north-south, different kinds of religions, ethnicities, etc. And that sort of dynamic can moderate parties.
We don't have an American Nazi party with seats in government. You see that in Europe, right? We don't have a far left, animals must be protected at all costs and are as important as human beings party here. You would see those ideas represented meaningfully and sometimes in coalition in European government.
Even without winning many major elections, minor parties today still play a vital role in the political ecosystem.
Throughout U.S. history, smaller parties have raised issues that the major parties were ignoring. They've mobilized groups.
Yeah, seems like the smaller parties are more effective if they were more diverse. But like I was saying earlier, with the two-party system, it seems like everybody gets to be represented in some form. And so the third, if you have all these different extreme political parties out there, if any one of them won, it would just alienate most of the population. Any one of them, because there's so many, and they're all minorities. So it just really wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, I guess, in a way, on that level. But it seems like within a community, though, that might be kind of healthy. Like, suppose you have like a very religious community, then they would probably want like someone more evangelical, far right sort of representative. And that would be healthy for them to have that option. That would represent all of them.
Well, you're talking about two different things right now. Now, to address your point, parliamentary systems are nightmarish. You've never functioned in one. I can go ahead and tell you about them. I was on the temple board at my Masonic lodge for a number of years, and there were three factions. Okay, faction number one wanted to use the lodge for brotherhood purposes. We wanted to have parties there. We wanted to, set it up so we could hang out there. We wanted to be our clubhouse. And then you had faction number two, which wanted to rent the lodge out for money. They wanted to convert the whole building into offices. So, when we weren't specifically meeting there for our meetings, it was a chiropractor, it was lawyer, it was a CPA, and that way we'd be making money. And then you had faction number three, which wanted to do nothing. Okay. So the result was absolutely nothing got done for decades. Okay.
Right.
Because the do nothing faction simply had to vote against whichever party. So, for example, if the clubhouse party said, we'd like to go ahead and fix the bathrooms up, so, when we go to the bathroom, it looks nice and it's clean, the do nothing party could say, no, we don't want to do that. And if the rental faction said, we'd like to do X, Y, and Z to make it more attractive to potential renters, they would team up with the Clubhouse Party and say, no, we don't want to do that. So absolutely nothing got done. So praising this idea of a parliamentary system, it sounds like a guy who's never actually been in a parliamentary system.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Now, the second part is about moderation, and that's purely a function of gerrymandering. Okay. Now, when you have a district that is, take for example, 100% Democrat, okay, or 90% Democrat, okay, the more Democrat is going to win, okay. Same thing with a district that's 100% Republican. Let's imagine a hypothetical district where you've got exactly 6 Democrat voters. Yeah, the hardcore, radical Republican is going to do better than the moderate. Now you take a district that is more like, let's say it's 51% blue, 49% red. The candidate is going to work very hard to appeal to both sides. That's purely a function of gerrymandering.
Let me just cut you off real quick. Sophia, did you want to say something?
No, I'm just listening. I'm getting confused because I don't understand all that terminology. I'm lost. So anyway.
Oh, the gerrymandering. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Gerrymandering is when they draw the borders of a district specifically to help one party. You have a lot of that in California. For example, I have some friends who live in a very conservative part of LA, but believe it or not, they are in Maxine Waters' district, who's very left. So what they did is they drew the congressional district boundaries, so there'll be a majority Democrat and a minority Republican.
Yeah.
And so you do that enough times, so they cut up. So the Republicans do not occupy a majority of any district in the city.
Right.
So yeah, she lives in a very conservative community, very Republican, but because that community is chopped up, Republicans are never going to see she's got one of the most far left representatives in the whole Congress.
But anyways, let me get this video. It's almost over, actually.
Sure.
Voters who the major parties have been ignoring. Third parties have been the catalysts of new ideas and new ways of doing politics throughout U.S. history.
This is one of the historic functions of third parties. Enhance the incentives of one or both of the existing major political parties to compete for the voters who have deserted in favor of a third party.
Against growing discontent, the two parties can do just one thing to prove themselves to their voters: good governance.
Looking at the past 20 years, although you can list progress in a number of areas, the balance sheet, I think, has not been that great. And so the two-party system is strong in the United States when American citizens believe that the two parties, either working with each other or against each other, have somehow managed to produce good government. And good government has been undersupplied.
My main advice for people if they're not happy with the two parties is to find whichever one of their local parties they feel closest to and really get involved in that party and shape its perspective, whether they want to see it be more moderate or more ideological, just more active. You got to start somewhere, and that's really the place where people can have the most kind of personal influence to really.
Interesting.
So I have a question for Alejandro. So what do you say to people, to the large percentage of people that they mentioned that have an issue with the two-party system? What would you say to them? Like where are they left in this country?
Some of what you want is better than none of what you want.
I'm sorry, it was breaking up.
Some of what you want is better than all of what you want. I mean, none of what you want. Okay, if you vote, if you're like 80% happy with the Democrats for whatever reason, or better yet, we had this a lot with Trump. Okay, there were a lot of people who, were unhappy with Trump for whatever reason. I'm like, okay, compared to what?
Come in.
compared to
Mhm.
compared to Hillary, you know, compared to Biden.
Right.
You know,
Oh, I'm smoking
you
you.
know, you're you
Well,
know,
I was trying to
your
get you to
your
come
best
here.
choice to get
Sorry,
most of
my
what you
apologies.
want is Trump.
I ain't got no
You
other
know,
chair. You want to get a chair?
and that's something I've had a lot of trouble communicating to a lot of Democrats. Well, Trump this, well, Trump that, well, Trump this. Like, compared to what? You know, and that's something Thomas Sowell said. You know, Thomas Sowell was very, very good. That's the first thing you ask, compared to what? And the second question you ask is, you know, compared to what? Or, you know, and what is your evidence? You know,
But in schools, I heard is Mike and Blake.
you know, so when I think about these people who've been quote unquote disenfranchised, you know, it's like, okay, well, compared to what? You know, your other option is Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's one of the reasons. Yes, another reason third parties have a very, very hard time is because, you know, if I'm going to get, you know, 80% of what I want with the Republicans or 80% of what I want with the Democrats, and I decide I'm going to go ahead and vote third party, I might end up with nothing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So it's better to, you know, get something. And some people just don't get that. Some people really just want everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people are very idealistic, and so they just look for this perfect solution to everything, because anybody can criticize any party, any organization for anything, because nobody's perfect, you know, and it's going to be all kinds of imperfections with anything. And so I think everybody's set up to just be more and more implanted in whatever it is that they want to be ideological about, you know. Hey, Sophia.
Well, no, that's ridiculous. That's what I'm just talking to him about.
That's
He's
what
a
the Democrat. That's
he's
what
a Republican.
That's what the Democrats.
I know. Explain.
We're having a side conversation.
That's okay. Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that's really haunted me about Democrats specifically is that they want to make it about, well, aren't you unhappy with him personally? I'm like, this is not a personality contest. And that's one of the things that comes up in the video a little bit is like, well, wouldn't you rather have, you know, someone who looked like you or someone who talked like you or someone from the same city or someone who went to the same high school? And like, that's great. You know, I don't need that. You know, I need someone who's going to close the borders, who's, you know, going to let me buy the gun I want, who's, you know, going to want to enact the policies that I want. And some people that's just too much for them. They want someone who's themselves. I mean, good example, you know, so what would happen if, you know, Jesus Christ ran? Yeah, there'd be a lot of some people don't know. You know, if Jesus Christ was running for president, there'd be a lot of evangelicals who'd vote for him. But, you know, Jesus Christ is not on the ballot. You got your choice between someone who is radically pro-choice, who, you know, let's look back at Obama. Okay. Obama was very anti-Christian. A lot of his stuff was, you know, very anti-Christian. You know, you got your choice between him and I believe it was McCain was running.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was a stark choice. Okay, you know, McCain's not going to give you everything.
Yeah.
You know, but it's the better option. You know, and that's just something a lot of people have a problem with, and I think that's personally a point of maturity.
Yeah.
You have to recognize that life sometimes doesn't give you everything you want.
Yeah.
And you just have to do the best you can.
Yeah, I can agree. I can agree to that.
Mm-hmm.
I can
Hey,
see
guys.
how. Hey,
y'all hear me?
Sophia. Yeah.
I apologize because Alejandro, in case you didn't know, we were supposed to have a guest on today, and he just now showed up, and that's why I got interrupted. I think he's going to get his chair and join me. But in any event, my apologies, and y'all can continue.
Yeah. No, we're just pretty much commented on the kind of the way the video concluded, you know, with the two parties being pretty much a good idea as long as people can respect that there's two parties and that they're supposed to lose elections. You know, it isn't that one party is supposed to be, you know, the salvation of the world or whatever. That's when you have
Come on,
this
that's
big division, you know.
I smoke. I don't give a damn. So this is Chris. Chris. That's
Hey,
my
Chris.
neighbor, actually. And me and him had this cool discussion the other day. And
right.
I realized that he actually is into politics, and I invited him on the show.
Okay.
What you want to
Okay.
say? Your views?
I'm into politics. I'm into everything worldly. Right
Oh,
now, what
okay.
has me outright is the Kyrie Irving situation.
Have y'all heard of that?
The what situation?
Kyrie Irving, the basketball
Oh,
player for the New Jersey Knicks.
no, I haven't heard about that. Mm-mm.
Okay.
He made a comment about Jews, and they're basically blowing it up. And they're saying he's racist. And all the stuff that's going on in the world as far as blacks and Latinos getting killed by police officers, as far as minority kids in school right now, they're making them cut their dreadlocks off. It's a lot of targeting stuff. But as soon as he said something about, one set, which I'm not saying is right because no one should bash any race. But as soon as he said that, it's like everywhere. If you go on the internet and type in Kyrie Irving right now, you will be amazed of all the storylines and stuff that they're putting up about it. But actual things that's going on that's harming the world, they don't care about.
Yeah, that's kind of like what happened with Kanye too, because Kanye made that comment about Jews in his business opponents. Remember, just recently.
Well, yeah, like to me, all that stuff is like a lot of distraction. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's just a lot of distraction going on, and there's a lot of important things people could be talking about to make things better in the world rather than all about the drama and the theater, and
And
the
everything's
entertainment,
racist.
Yeah, and it's just there to just trigger you, constantly trigger you. That's what the stuff is all about. So whenever you see these feeds on social media or whatever like that, they purposely design these ads to trigger you because that's where they get most engagement from. And so there's always an economic reason behind all of these social divisions and social engineering and all this stuff we're talking about. It's like that's why individuals have to be more empowered in themselves and have more belief in themselves and be more responsible and accountable, because if you're waiting for the world to actually show you the truth and treat you righteously, then you're just you're just barking up the wrong tree. You know what I mean?
I agree, though. It's a lot of it is just distractions and blowing shit out of proportion.
Right.
I agree with that.
Right.
I mean, because to me, they're talking about racist stuff, and then at the same time, it's like disease is going crazy right now, wiping out half our population. But they're worried about, oh, this person said that. We need to all be trying to figure out how can we live and populate more, because before we know it, we're gonna look up and half the world's gonna be wiped out because everybody's paying attention to this, that, and the other instead of what we should be looking at.
And notice that the things that you could be looking at that could actually help you are the things that they want you to turn away from. Like they're the things they don't want you to talk about. Like if there's problems within a community of people in some kind of way, they want to let you know you don't have to worry about that, man. You don't have to worry about that. That's who you are. And that's what you're supposed to be. You know what I'm saying?
And the Democrats, I hate to say
Yeah.
this, but the Democrats love to enforce abortion in our communities because that's done for population control. And me and Scott, we covered that whole topic about Margaret Sanger, who was the founder of it. So I definitely suggest that you check that one out too. So Alejandro, to get back to you, personally, I don't agree with abortion. I think it's wrong. And I use the word unethical because I'm a spiritual person. But at the same time, like I said, I'm also realistic. And I know I can't stop everybody from doing it. That's basically all I'm saying, because sometimes it may be necessary in very rare cases,
And see, I'm a Democrat, and that's why I stand for it. If someone gets raped, should you have the right to tell them to keep a baby after they got raped? They could be raped by a family member. That's incest on top of rape.
All right.
So
Well, I already covered this topic. I don't know why we're beating it, but again,
I I
The
wasn't in here.
overwhelming
I'm
majority,
just
the
speaking
overwhelming
about
majority of
and she
the
said you're a
over,
Republican. So I'm
yeah, the
speaking
over,
a Democratic side of a view.
Right. He wasn't here, so he didn't know.
Yeah, he didn't
okay.
know.
Well, to rehash it, the policies the Democrats are in favor of are abortion demand. So arguing special cases is a straw man. You know, it's like, no, we're not.
So
you know,
basically, they should just go through there and be like, oh, we need to pull this out, pull this out, pull that out, leave that in here, pull this out, pull that out. If you make a bill of something, it's gonna be stuff in there. You're not gonna agree with everything that's put on the bill. It's inside of it. If you want them to go personally pull out stuff to accommodate to everybody, that's not real life and that's not the world. Everybody's not gonna agree with everything everyone says. So
Right.
it's really a contradiction.
I'm not even
Would
sure
you
what
agree
point
with
Well,
everything you said? You wouldn't agree with everything I say.
right,
So
but
we
see,
all sitting here
where
voting in the
Alejandro, I think if I could speak for Alejandro real quick, he views abortion as on par with murder. So for you to say like, oh, people
So
aren't
what
going to
do you
agree
do
on,
right?
like, well, I'm saying like what it
Well, I
seems
think
to
he's
him,
saying,
like
but
if
I think
somebody
he
was to
is saying,
say, well, everybody's different, they can have their own opinion. It's like we don't say that about murder, but we say it about
In
abortion.
some cases,
we can all,
murder, if you're defending yourself and you kill someone, it's
Yeah,
still
and then
murder.
you can go in front of a judge, explain it, and then judge sees
But
it
it's
your way.
still self-defense. Yeah, you
How?
can get off of it and they can classify the self-defense, but it's still murder. You killed the individual. It's just worded different.
No, then it's self-defense. You
not
know,
murder.
and that's
just
very
worded
clear
different.
cut. That's
It's
very
technically
clear
not
cut.
murder because murder is premeditated. So if you kill somebody, and
No, premeditated means you thought about it then when it acted on it.
yeah, that
Murder is murder. If you kill someone, if it's self-defense, if it's justified, if it's non-justified, it's still murder. A person died.
Yeah,
It's all it is your wording is different.
Yeah, legal.
And I'm a Democrat, but that's what Republicans do. They word stuff different. It's all the same thing. You just
So,
wording it different.
so like Alejandro would see like abortion is murder. So they'd be synonymous.
So, like I said, so murder. So, if someone's beating you to death and you have to pick up something to kill them, is that not murder?
No, it's self-defense.
Right. That's self-defense.
That's self-defense.
Are you still killing someone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then that's murder. It's
No.
murder.
Murder is a legal term.
But in the legal
You're
term,
still killing someone.
Right.
The definition under murder is still it has subtitles around it. It's kill. It's the same thing. You're just rewording it.
Well,
Right.
I think murder
Technically,
is
in the legal system.
unjustified killing.
It's in the legal system.
Because one side of a person justified it. That doesn't mean everyone's going to agree.
Right.
Back
And
to
so
what I
that
just said,
right.
everyone's not going to see the same thing.
Right. I understand. I understand
Yeah,
that
so
100%.
the way you're
Well,
doing it, you're saying this self-defense. I look at it, it might be self-defense. It's still murder.
So how does that relate to abortion, though? What you're saying? That's where I'm kind of
Because you're
mixed up.
telling someone if they get raped, on top of rape, what if they got raped by a family member? So now they're having an incest rape baby. And if they want to get rid of it, you tell them, oh, no, you don't have the right. You didn't go through that traumatic experience, did you? So how could you tell someone how to feel about something? You've already been raped. And then what if you're raped by a family member? That's pain on top
I
of
would,
pain.
yeah, I wouldn't.
That's mentally, like, that goes into the mentally aspect of where you're telling someone how to feel or what should they feel.
Okay, so my question is this. Are you saying that a person who gets raped wouldn't be able to have an abortion? Because from my understanding, in those type of cases, you could still get an abortion, right? Or
That's
no?
correct.
But that's pulling. That's pulling.
That was the whole problem with that. Was it that
20 rules? You're pulling 1 and 2 rules out for making an exception. It's a list made for a reason. Everyone's not going to agree with the same thing that's on there. Either it's okay for people to get raped and raped by family members, and y'all feel like it's okay, and they should have the baby, or it's not. You can't justify and be like, oh, we're gonna pull this out if you got raped because we feel like this is so wrong.
So what you're saying is that
Mm.
they're not going to change the law when it comes to those cases. And
I mean, like I said, I don't like abortion because I mean, except for the fact, like I just said, if you're raped by a family member, even if you're raped, I feel like you shouldn't be able to tell someone how to feel about that because there's something mentally and there's something physically they went through. But if you're pregnant and you don't want to have a child, it's millions of people that can't have kids that would love to have kids.
Right.
Give it to them. It's people out here that would love to take care of a child that someone else can't take care of or don't want to.
Right. You think it's unethical too. You think it
Yes.
shouldn't really be done. I agree. But
Mhm.
I think that I could be wrong, but I think that if you fall under that type of category where you're raped or anything like that, then I don't think that Republicans are against that. If they are, I'm not in agreement with that because like me and Alejandro discussed earlier, I think there are certain instances where it should be allowed. But generally speaking, it does seem to target the Black community. You know what I'm saying? Because we have more abortions by 4 times higher than every other race. And so if we want economical power and wealth, we have to also be able to grow in number. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so if we continue to abort our babies instead of practicing safe sex or using contraceptive and all that kind of stuff.
But some things are not accessible to certain groups as it is to others.
But that's what I'm saying.
Everything should be.
We need to work on that though, as a
we
Black
should level
community.
the field.
We
If
need
you
to-
level the field out, then if everything's level and everybody has the same opportunities, and then stuff like that happen, then I feel like it should be a top half. But first, let everybody be on the same leveling field.
As far
Okay,
as
but
opportunities.
Should we
Yes.
wait for somebody else to give that to us, or
No,
should
it
we?
shouldn't. It
should
should
we
be
stand
a
up?
wait. It should be done already because.
Hey Scott,
It-
you know,
it's
like I said,
we're
I am
human.
sick, so I think I'm gonna bow out now.
Okay, man. Hey, thanks for calling in, Alejandro.
problem.
Appreciate
Take
you,
care.
man. Thank you.
See you later.
That was nice.
I was gonna say something, but I'm just
You're gonna say something.
right. Like anyway, I agree with him on one hand. He already knows that I have conservative views and that I'm not a Democrat. But I think that he also has he should have a voice and he should have his own opinion and he should be heard. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just a firm believer in trying to bring unity between people rather than division. You know what I'm saying? So what can we do as a community to address the problem of like teenage pregnancy and all that kind of shit that leads to? See, another thing a lot of people don't know, statistically speaking, Chris, a lot of Black women lose their babies by being murdered and shot by their boyfriends, you know, in places like Chicago and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So our children are already dead in the womb. It's like the most dangerous spot for a Black child to be.
I think we need more mentoring programs. We need more people talking to more people.
Yeah.
Trying to help more people. Like
Addressing,
like I said, the mental aspect.
yeah,
of
addressing
stuff.
mental health.
There's a lot of people out here that are depressed, want to kill themselves, don't want to live.
Right.
Feel like they're hopeless. They have no hope.
Yeah.
I'm broke. I have nothing, so I might as well just run up to the store, you know, and rob. And if someone sit there and talk to them, hey, well, why don't you try to go do this? You don't have your diploma. Hey, well, why don't you try to go get this? You will have more opportunities. And it's a lot of people that don't talk to people. And I feel like the world got selfish. Everybody starts saying me, instead of trying to help each other.
Yeah, of
I
course,
agree.
of course.
We should have like
That's
social programs for mental health. And that's a very unchecked thing in our community. I know because
Yeah,
my
it's
dad
not.
is batshit fucking crazy.
and you know,
and
it's hard because these electronics, everybody's glued to their phones.
Yes.
Nobody's really talking to each other like normal people.
Right.
Everybody's kind of just, you know, talking to a piece of electronics, man. Like they're not really gonna develop too well.
I don't trust the Democrats to make these policies for us. I think the Democrats are making things worse because now they're turning everything into racism. And we can't say that either because I think we've come a long way.
It's
You
a
know what
lot.
I'm saying?
It's a lot of racism still in the world. It's just disguised up better.
Well, that's true
Mhm.
too, but also we've made a lot of progress and we
Yeah.
act like that's not happening at all. And I'm like, that's not true because I can promise you every teenager that's the
But
same
see,
age
this
as.
is where they're coming
But
from.
let me
when they
ask you
say
this. Does every teenager have a phone that costs at least $150? Not these days. Most of them.
Most of them.
All kids have access to the internet. I mean, come on, what
But like, see, the
16-year-olds,
same thing, I like what he said. The phones is a distraction.
It is.
Just
Mhm.
because we have $150 phone don't mean we came out of the same place we was. It's just the world evolved more.
Right.
Yeah.
We have to
Yeah.
have that shit.
If that's why I say the level field needs to be.
All I'm saying
needs
though,
to be-
we do have doctors, we do have successful Black people. So what did they do to get to where they're
I'm gonna
at?
give you a perfect example. The HBCs now. At first, they wasn't on the same level field as the big schools. Now they're getting money thrown into them. They're getting endorsed. They're getting an even level field. Like, so everybody has the same opportunity. Like, I could go down a list. You probably could name me 20 HBC players that came out and went to the NFL. But I promise you, in the next 20, I'm not even gonna say 20, the next 5 years, you'll have over 20 to 30. It's because they're equal in level field out. So now
Well,
they're giving them
yeah.
the same opportunities.
Well, it's true. Like, if I
Would that
understand what you're
call
saying,
affirmative
like well, like, I guess comparative to that is like saying kids who go to like real broken schools, like real poor schools, those kids are going to come out with limited opportunities
Exactly.
compared to a kid that goes to a real nice school, where there's, ways to advance into college and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
those kids come out ahead and they have like an advantage over the kids who come up in that real poor environment. You know what I mean? And,
Well,
and so
I
even
will say we still have zip code segregation.
Mhm.
That's very active.
But like what he said, I worked at FedEx with a kid. He was 18. He recently just turned 18. This dude was already a junior in college. Because of the school he went to, it allowed him to skip past everything.
Mhm.
Like he said, because he was in a school where they had the resources and they could allow him to do that. And then you might look to your right, and it's a kid the same age as him, and he has no credits. He's struggling to get in college, and this dude is already a junior. He was 18.
Right, and I agree with that. And I agree with that, Chris. But here's my counter argument. I agree with you though. I think that public schools are largely controlled by liberals, and the curriculum is designed to basically produce worker ants and people with victimhood mentality. I'll give you a good example. My children, they were not aware of racism. Okay, they didn't feel discriminated against. They never felt like they were at a disadvantage. They never experienced that until they got older and they started learning about every subject was about slavery. Every single fucking subject. They came home learning shit about, like my daughter in first grade. In kindergarten, she had to watch a video of Martin Luther King being segregated and having to eat at a different table. And so she came home and crying and shit and saying, why would they treat somebody like that? And now she has like this it's like negative energy, My son start coming home and saying, Mama, the white people hate me. And all of a sudden he feels like a bitch. And now all of a sudden he feels like he ain't got no place in this world. But we should be focusing on teaching kids how to manage business. You know what I'm saying? Teach them how to manage their money instead of teaching them how to work in a fucking factory and telling them that America hates you.
So when she watched the Martin Luther King video, did they continue to go and did they
One second.
Even though he was
1 second. I just want to say hello to Amy. She just joined in. She
Is
called
that
in.
my
Amy, you there?
Hello. Is that my Amy?
I don't know. Amy,
Yeah,
can you hear us?
She having connectivity issues. But yeah, apparently Alejandro doesn't like to converse with real people, so he left the damn. He left the damn place.
Yeah, I can tell.
It don't matter
didn't
though,
say
because
nothing, he turned
we
red.
about reality. You know what I'm saying? We're not looking for like,
Right.
he can be all the way up here if he wants to in his little fucking bubble, like nobody really cares.
Right.
And Amy, we can't hear you, girl. Okay, she's
Well,
gone.
she
But
dipped
that's
out.
what I was
Yeah.
saying. You know, you don't do that. You don't do that. You don't focus on that. It's okay to know about our history, but at one point we do have to start moving on.
So what I was saying, so that they continue to show, even though he went through all that, he kept going until we're at this point, like you said.
No, they didn't show that. They just showed that part.
And that's my problem. Even in the history books, they say Christopher Columbus founded America. He didn't. It was the black man that was on his boat that discovered.
See, I don't know about all that because I'm not from this country.
That's just like they say all black people came from Africa. It was a group.
I know
of
there was
settlers.
some already here.
It was a group of settlers in New Hampshire already.
But did you know the Constitution is actually Native American law?
Yeah, I mean they were here first.
Yeah, but
really.
the Constitution is literally written based on Native American law. It was a Native American chief.
Okay,
who
Amy's
worked
knocking at
together
the
with-
door again.
Sorry.
Hey, Amy.
Hey. I
What you
was
got
going
to
to.
say, girl?
Well, I gotta say is a lot of it is communities and the poor funding.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to fund the inner cities because they don't think it's substantial to them. Instead of giving kids the opportunities in life, like where I'm in a small community, like early college. Is there early college in poor neighborhoods in Chicago?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of him.
No, I know. I understand.
Nah,
her point.
I was saying I never heard of him. So yeah.
Right. She go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, because that's the problem. I mean, what the original educational system was set for was to basically make worker ants.
Mm-hmm.
See, told you.
So the funding is, yeah. So basically, it just depends on the funding. If they're in richer neighborhoods, they get better schooling education. There's more early education, and if they're in poorer neighborhoods like inner cities, they're not going to get that. They're going to be tell the kids, well, go in the military or go work in a factory.
Yep, and that's where the zip code segregation comes in at, and so that's why I say the Democrats, they turn everything into racism and they make all these headlines about all this other nonsense when the actual racism that still exists, we don't even address that, and it gets overlooked, and that's a problem because zip code segregation is very well alive, including in this town. I can't put my kid in a better school unless I am in that district. You know what I'm saying?
I like something she said. She said it's made to make us be working ants.
Right. That's what public school is.
I'm gonna tell you something. Democrats are strongly for Social Security and stuff and retirement. You know why?
It's benefits though.
But she just said it. We're working ants. So if you've been working 40 or 50 years and you get to where you can't, you want all your money. You don't want nobody telling you, oh, well, I'm just gonna give you this little bit of amount. But I busted my butt for 40 or 50 years.
Yeah.
I want what I'm due. I went out here and killed myself. Let me get what I work for.
I agree with that. But I'm also saying we shouldn't produce just worker ants. We should teach children entrepreneurship. We should teach them how to be business savvy. You know what I'm saying?
And how to put
Not
money
teach them
away.
how to
teach. I feel like each generation, like me, I should have wealth for my kids and their kids so they can pass it along so they don't have to worry about things I don't worry about or struggling like I do.
Right.
But that's the reality for a lot of people, and then that's where a lot of people, they have dreams, but you also have real life, and hey, I gotta go work this way. I want to do this. I know I'm great at it, but real life is sitting in, so I gotta go over here and do this.
That's
killing a lot of dreams and a lot of businesses.
That's
right.
True.
That's it. That's right.
I trust me, Scott's my witness. He knows my struggles as I'm trying to run an earring business and shit. I go DoorDash and whatever hustle I can do, and I'm still here. You know what I'm saying? But we need to work on entrepreneurship and supporting each other's businesses and not constantly be against each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whenever I see a black man with a business, I'm going to invest, you know what I'm saying? Instead of hating. For a good example, there was this chick, she bought, she was able to get wholesale price on good hair, and she started running her own salon, you know what I'm saying? Now, we as black people, we ain't got no damn problem giving thousands of dollars to the Asian guy, you know what I'm saying, who overprices his products in the hood because he knows that's what we want. But this girl set up shop and then robbed her and killed her. And we got to stop doing that type of shit to each other.
But see,
you know?
down here, because this is a small town, it's not even just about the black side or the white side. In this town, people would rather go to Dallas and support businesses up there, and a lot of stuff closed down around here.
Yeah,
because we're in a small town.
Yeah, this town ain't
it's
about shit.
beyond that. It should be, we should support the community. We can have a lot of warehouses and good businesses down here and restaurants.
Yeah.
It's like I said, everybody is me, and they worry
Right.
about each other. And instead of, hey, well, I can lend you this, or I know this to tell you, no, I'm gonna get this, and then I'm just gonna burn off and go to Dallas.
Right. We don't invest in one another
At all.
at all. And that needs to
Right.
stop. And we need to address that. You know what I'm saying? Aside from government policies, because as a conservative, I believe in less government control. I think more control should be in the hands of the people. So we need to have unity amongst each other as people in general, you know, not just black and white, but as people. So I agree with that. You know, I don't think the government should have control over every aspect of our life, period. You know, we got to be able to think for ourselves and make good decisions, you know?
Because at the end of the day, if that starts happening, then we're Russian.
Exactly. Socialism. Thank you. See, he gets it.
That's right.
Right.
Of
He
course.
gets it. Amy, you still here? Amen.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. What you got to say since you came on? That was a pleasant surprise anyway.
I believe in less government. They're basically their hands into pies that doesn't need to be there. I mean, telling us what to do, and now they're wanting to give out. You know, they're talking about UBIs. Well, what about encouraging people to go work?
Right? Because that breeds corruption too. Because think about it. If you know you work your motherfucking ass off, like you just said, but the next motherfucker who ain't never done shit, he gonna get his UBI. I'm ready to kick this motherfucker's ass.
But that's
Yeah.
Like,
that's
what?
why food
Hold
and gas,
up.
food and gas is going up, because
Right.
people don't want to go to work. So the warehouses are having to work people 3 and 4 more hours longer. They have to pay them more. Instead of them having 2 employees, they have 1. I just recently worked at Kohl's. I literally was doing like 20 trucks. And that is not supposed to be like that, but it's
Right.
so many people that don't want to work.
Yeah,
they just putting people in, like they're killing people out there literally. Like I literally worked 20 trucks. Like I have to go down the line and keep the line going.
Because they can't keep any employees, because I'm sorry to say, well, that goes back to the Biden administration. They're offering all these freebies and motherfuckers ain't working. They're like, well, we gonna get UBI. Well, and what about the stimulus? What
Before
about
Biden got in office, Trump gave out a stimulus check.
Right, but
so he started it.
right. I mean, like we said, like we said though in the beginning of the show, both sides are corrupt, right, Scott?
That's it. Yeah.
Man,
Absolutely.
100%.
I told her when President Obama was in office, he had a disease control group. And I didn't know if she knew about this. I said, the day that Trump got elected in office, he disbanded it.
Yeah, I know. He disbanded
COVID
everything.
would've never made it here if he had left those people in place.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they
That
were
was
looking.
that's why it took so long for them to get ventilators and all kinds of stuff that was going on at that
Only
time,
thing
and
I would
people
say
were
about
dying.
that
Like,
though is that they found out later on, you know, and I believe I was one of those people. I had COVID already like 3 times. Anyway,
But if you go read on the back of a disinfectant can before COVID,
it says
ever hit,
coronavirus.
it already was on there. And like I told her, if you also go do your research, go look at all Donald Trump's friends and look how much money they made in the pandemic.
The corporation, That's why I say they're all under one blanket, man.
Oh, heck yeah, man. The COVID created one of the biggest transfers of wealth in human history.
And it attacked small businesses. Like he said, in this town alone, how many businesses shut down? They're attacking individual entrepreneurship. Businesses
everywhere.
that have been in business for 25 fucking years and more had to shut down. Gas stations, there's still gas stations shut down.
Just closed down.
Yeah.
The lumber
Dude over there is a dealership shut down. Like the shit's wild, you know. And me as a business, trying to run my own business, the fees went up. I literally paid to have an Etsy shop, and my profit doesn't even cover my expenses.
But you know, Trump was wanting to keep businesses open. Remember, he was trying to get businesses to open back up, open the economy back up.
Better policies, because the
You
left
want the business to stay open, because the more business open, the more people out, the more it spreads.
Yeah, but what we gonna do?
We should have never let the people get off the boat. That would have stopped all of this.
But they said that COVID was already here and we didn't know it because China lied about it.
No, that COVID was on that boat.
Yeah, but look, before that though, China actually lied about.
Yeah, they sent a Chinese guy over.
Got out. So
in San
before that
Francisco.
whole boat situation, that shit had already got out, and they found that out later because China fucking lied. Like seriously.
I mean, besides Republican, Democrats, the government, they're the biggest gangsters in the world.
Hell yeah.
They had all this plan.
I was
the
thinking that earlier.
And the Democrats can say they don't like each other. Behind closed doors, I think they all knew about this.
Trump shaking hands with Hillary and all that shit. Like that's for real.
Oh yeah. Every one of them made money off of this.
And that's what this show is really about today. We were talking about the libertarian aspect, and we think that it's really asinine to have only two parties represent the whole entire country.
But you know, the parties, they just flipped because of when the Civil War was going on.
Yeah, but that was my question to Alejandro. Where do you see the future of this country when at the end of the day, it's always either going to be the left or the right? And then the other half of the country is disgruntled. You know what I'm saying?
And it goes back and forth. And it just goes back and forth every 4 years. It goes back and forth.
To represent the people. They don't represent the people. They just struggling. It's like Clash of the Titans.
And this might sound crazy. I feel like they need to start a course and a program. If you want to be a president, they need to groom them up. Instead of you just jumping in here, oh, I had a passion for this. You should learn how to do it. Sensibility, like all. I feel like they should go through all that training. Then maybe getting people that's
like to really qualify to be a president. You have to qualify.
And
that's how simple. We're voting for them. So why shouldn't you have to qualify for it?
Right. And term limits. Why in the hell Pelosi up there and she barely even there ain't no soul left in her body, or Biden.
Biden.
Yeah, and I feel like
brain damage.
I think you shouldn't be that old and be able to be a president.
Right. You should have young people who got, have that vision and drive. I'm not saying like extremely young and get these like.
But not what you're saying, because maybe if you put someone young in, we get different results. Like you said, they're gonna give you a different energy.
Yeah, they have that. They have all that enthusiasm. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll give you a good example for that particular thing you just said. Like I had surcharges up the ass because I went and got a ticket one time because I borrowed somebody's car and they didn't have it registered, and I got slapped with like 5 tickets all at once, and I was just trying to get some damn diapers, and they fucking towed the car and everything, And so for years I was paying 3 different surcharges every fucking month, and I had to pay that for 3 consecutive years straight. So to keep my license keep my license going, I had to pay those surcharges. You know what I'm saying? And so I paid it for like 2 years or whatever, and then one day I had to go in front of a judge, and that judge was a young guy compared to all the old judges, and he was like, you know what? I don't believe in that surcharge shit. He said, I'm gonna tell you just like that. That only sets people back. And he said, and I'm throwing them out. He said, go do your community service and you done with this shit. Yeah. And he just threw that shit out because he knew it was hurting me more than helping me. What's the point of making me pay fucking surcharges for that fucking long instead of just letting me pay a damn ticket?
Right.
You trying to keep a nigga in poverty. You feel me?
That's
But
what it
that's
is.
like what I'm saying. That's crippling us too. How a lot of people don't have licenses, and that stops people from getting jobs. I know. I mean, I can name you so many jobs that you need a license for, and people are qualified, but they don't have a license because it's so hard to get a license.
You mean ID?
No, I mean, if you get your license suspended or taken away, it's
Well, yeah,
impossible to get it back.
that is hard. That is hard. Like when you get your license suspended, I agree with him.
I'm going through that right now.
If it had not been for that judge throwing it out because he had a different vision. He was young, you know what I'm saying? He had like a different enthusiasm about life. He had a different outlook. And if it wasn't for that judge, I'd probably be still paying that shit. I ain't even gonna lie.
Shit. Damn.
I think it has to do with where all the money goes to, like who's the lobbyists behind the candidates. You look at Hillary Clinton back in the 90s, they had the 3 strikes you're outlaw. Well, who was funding her campaigns? Private prisons.
Mm-hmm.
Where do the young black men go? Private prisons.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta look at where the money trail's going and the who's benefited from the campaign money.
Mm-hmm.
Which corporations is donating? Why do you think there's so much support for Israel within our candidates? AIPAC.
Like Pfizer.
And lo and behold, you say something about Israel policies, you're a fucking Jew hater.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've been called Nazi so many times. Anti-Semitic. And I have anti-Zionist Jewish friends.
And
but I say one thing.
Right. There's a difference between being anti-Zionist and being anti-Jew. I mean, Jew. What the fuck?
J-O-O Jew.
Yeah, that's what I said. They said it's a shortage of truck drivers. Is because can't nobody get their license.
Yeah.
So it's millions of jobs sitting out here right now, but you got a group of people that can't get their license to make it happen. That's why food is steady going up.
The only thing the best advice I can give you on that though is community service, because that'll knock it out. And I ain't gonna lie, I did mine at a fucking cemetery, and that lady signed off on my
But
hours.
I've never been told it. So how many other people have never been told it?
You right, but that's what we here for. We
See,
trying to.
that's what I'm saying.
We trying to.
It's a lot of
But see,
a lot of
that's
information missing out here.
But see, that's what I'm saying. Me, you, we can start that shit right now. That's why we doing this channel. You see what I'm saying? Me and Scott, we've been doing this. It's about informing the community. We're not trying to enforce government policies. We're trying to say, look, we done waited on these people in the government for too damn long. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
To do this for us and do that for us. And one thing I'm not going to do as a black person is keep begging for shit. You know what I'm saying? So what can we do to take responsibility and start doing the work in our own communities? You know what I'm saying? And pass that information around. And that's why we're trying to do this channel, because we want to get the messages out there. Like, just like you didn't know you can do this with community service. You know what I'm saying? Well, that's what I'm here for. Because that's what I did. I went and did my community service, and the lady was so damn cool. She signed off on all my hours, even though I didn't really do them, and my shit was done. You know what I'm saying? She trying to help me out and give me a break.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we gotta just work together and let each other know what can we do. You know what I'm saying? Because we can sit here all day long and wait for their policies, and I'm like tired of that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I feel you, man.
What say you?
Yeah, that's exactly it, man. Put the power back in your hands.
In the hands of the people. You feel me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with that being said, y'all, it's hot as shit in here, and I'm gonna cut this short.
Yeah.
I got my door open, and we back at 80 damn degrees because Texas is bipolar. It don't ever.
Are you not in Texas?
Huh?
They're not in Texas.
No, he's in Florida. Amy is in the Midwest somewhere. Where you at?
Indiana.
Winchester,
Yeah,
Oh, it
Indiana.
probably feels great up there.
And that's where I came from, and I just want to. I want to go back so bad. Amy, I'm
burn it
coming.
Burn it up down here, man.
Yeah, it was 82 degrees today.
Yeah, I'm literally sweating right now, man. That shit crazy.
Yeah.
You know, fat people sweat easier.
It's 80s all week, then it switched to 50s. Like Texas is bipolar.
It is, because in 3 days we're gonna be down to the 40s. And just
Wow.
yesterday, it was like what, 50?
Look, it's right there.
Yeah, look at that shit. That don't make no sense. That don't make no sense. I should
Man.
be dropping 40-degree difference from the morning time
Wow.
to the night time.
Yeah, it was 82 and it's supposed to be 51 in a minute.
Yep, just
Yeah.
about 2-3 more hours.
You don't know how to dress down there. You don't know whether to put
Nope.
shorts on or a jacket.
Yep. You might as well
Yeah, I feel like you might as well have both on.
You gotta have both just in case. Pack for both. Yeah,
Hell
man.
yeah.
I'm gonna,
Wow. But
yep, I'm gonna check out too,
thanks
cause
for coming, Chris.
Okay.
yeah,
Thanks
thanks,
for
man.
popping
Nice
up,
meeting you,
Eddie.
Chris.
Love your input.
I was nice to meet y'all too.
All right,
Even
nice to
the
meet you,
music got
man.
made.
Yes, sir.
That turned red.
He always
Yeah.
he always does that rage quitting shit. He's infamous for that. He always do that shit. But see, we know how to duke it out. Only the strong survive.
That's right. That's right.
Anyway, y'all, I'm gonna cut it short.
Okay,
Love
guys.
y'all.
Yep. Till next week.
Peace out.